Hi, everyone. Welcome to Voice of Korean Parents. This is our second episode, and we really want to educate and help give guidance and really spread the word of what is going on right now.
또 우리 Voice of Korean Parents에 오신 것을 환영하며 오늘도 우리 중요한 우리 아이들에 대해서 알아야 할 중요한 것들을 우리가 또 이야기하도록 하겠습니다.
And so I'm Uriah Park. This is Ann Lee, and we have a special guest today. His name is Daniel Chung, and he's the founder and director of the Ascent Youth Academy. We're so thankful to have him on board with us because he has a lot of insight. He spent many, many years, most of his life, mentoring the youth, and now he has his own academy, and he's also a Navy vet. And so we're grateful because he mentors these youth, teaches them how to think, how to be mentally strong. And he's very, very aware of the current events, which is, I think, one of the reasons why he has started this academy to raise up leaders of the next generation. So thank you for joining us.
다니엘 청 선생님하고 함께 할 것입니다. Ascent Institute의 원장님이시기도 하고, 그리고 또 여태껏 굉장히 오랜 세월 동안 어린아이들의 멘토링을 하신, 정말 아이들의 교육에 관심이 많으신, 데니얼 청 선생님을 오늘 초대했습니다.
We have a couple of topics that we want to go over today, and we really just want parents to be aware of what they are teaching in schools right now. And there were two very hot topics that we've encountered, and I don't know, some people are aware or if they think they're rumors, but there's a lot of concerns of certain material being presented to our children in the public school system. And one of those things is communism and critical race theory. Mr. Daniel, if you could explain a little bit further on that.
그러니까 요새 공립학교에서 공산주의를 가르치고 있고, 이건 오렌지 카운티 공립학교에서 있는 일입니다. 그리고 또 비판적 인종 이론이라는 것이 이제 공립학교에 들어왔습니다. 네, 그래서 오늘 그거에 대해서 미스터 데니얼하고 좀 얘기를 해보기로 하였습니다.
So first, I would talk in Korean. I really would, but my Korean is so short, so forgive me. But thank you so much for having me on today. I think that schools, when you look at the ideas and the facilities of school, one problem that I see is we've taken education and we've substituted linguistically what education means to that of indoctrination.
우리가 지금 현재 공립학교 교육의 문제점이 뭐냐면은, 교육이 이제는, 세뇌? 아니면은 일반적인, 뭐랄까, 그걸 뭐라 그러지?
그렇죠. 이제 선생님의 믿음을 학생들한테 가르치는 것이 그렇죠.
주입식 교육으로 갔다는 것이 문제입니다, 요새.
그렇죠.
그러니까 주입식 교육을 해서 더 나아가서 이제 세뇌 교육까지로도 가고 있다고 볼 수 있습니다, 지금.
Right. So instead of teaching a balanced idea of facts or of information, what they do is they're now teaching beliefs.
그러니까 이제는 상식을 넘어서, 그러니까 그 지식을 가르치는 게 아니라, 이렇게. Let me turn off the KakaoTalk real quick. Sorry. Okay. 이제는 지식을 가르치는 게 아니라, 이제는 그 철학을 가르친다고 해야 되나? 철학을 가르치는데, 그러니까 네, 철학을 가르치는 거죠, 그죠?
이제 철학은 이게 philosophy란 그 단어인데, 그렇죠?
그 철학이 아니라
이게 한국 언어에서 그렇죠.
사상을 가르치는 거였죠, 그죠?
그렇죠. 그러니까 so instead of teaching students a balanced amount of ideas, for instance, a yay or a nay, they teach just the yay or they teach just the nay.
그러니까 양쪽, 그러니까 여러 가지 관점을 다 아이들한테 가르치는 게 아니라 한쪽 면만 가르치고 이것이 옳다 하고
그렇죠.
주입식 교육을 시키는 거죠. 그죠?
Right. That's the problem. And so it's not even just critical race theory, or it's not just the indoctrination of communism.
So as you were saying earlier, so instead of
Right. So
teaching,
right. Instead of
uh,
teaching like a balanced of
uh,
positions,
yeah.
what they have effectively done is they've
Mhm.
used words such as progression or progressiveness or education,
Uh-huh.
and they've redefined that word so that they no longer have to teach a balanced curriculum.
Wow.
Right. So that's the problem. So it's just like critical race theory and the indoctrination of communism. It's just a vehicle by which this is delivered. So this is the problem: is many people focus so much on the subject matter that they don't understand what's actually going on. And it's linguistics, it's language, and all these things are an issue that's going on in the public school system.
오케이. 그러니까 제가 이거를 좀 잘 그러니까 한국말로 번역을 하자면,
네.
이게 진보주의라는 이름으로, 비판적 인종 이론이나, 공산주의가를 가르치는데, 이게 다, 언어를, 언어를 조작한다?
아니면 뜻을 완전히 그냥 바꾸든지. 그렇죠?
뜻을 완전
그렇죠.
바꾼다.
그렇죠.
바꿔서 아이들한테 주입을 시키는 거예요. 그러니까
그렇죠.
여러 가지 관점을 보여주지 않고 그냥 한 가지 것만 이제 가르치는,
그렇죠.
한쪽 면만 가르치는 그런 교육이 지금 실행되고 있는 거죠.
그렇죠. 이제 그게
네.
이제 제일 큰 문제가 이제 집 안에서 그렇죠. 이제 부모님이 가르쳐주는 교육이랑 학교에서 가르치는 교육이랑 달라요. 이게. 그러니까 부모님 입장에서든지 아니면 그 교회에서 입장이든지 학교에서 여러 가지 그 인포메이션이 한꺼번에 날라오니까 학생들이 they're not only confused but they're torn.
아이들이 혼란에 빠지는 것뿐만이 아니라 아이들이 선택의 갈림길에 있는 거죠.
그렇죠.
그렇죠?
그렇죠.
어느 편에 쓰냐.
그렇죠.
오케이. 이게 심각한 문제네요. 왜냐면은 엄마 아빠를 믿게 되면은 엄마 아빠랑 같은 팀이 되지만,
그렇죠.
만약에 학교를 믿게 되면 엄마 아빠랑 부딪히게 되겠죠.
그렇죠. Exactly. Exactly. So this is the reason why, when you see legislation and they have like parent rights in education, this is a huge issue. Even in the midterms coming up, it's very surprising. People, like political commentators, are saying that it's very surprising that education is like the first and foremost topic that is dividing parents and teachers.
Yeah.
Never in history has this happened before.
So what do you talk? 그러면은 이제 선생님과 부모가 갈린다는 건가요?
그렇죠. 이제 학생이 학교로 가면은 선생님이 선생님대로 그냥 가르쳐주고 싶은 대로 그냥 가르치는 거예요. 선생님이. 그럼 집에 가서는 부모님이 다른 얘기를 하니까 이 학생이 누구를 믿어야 되는지 전혀 모르는 거예요. 그러니까 아무도 they don't trust anyone or they trust one side. It's very difficult to trust both.
그러면은 이 상황에서 부모님들은 어떻게 해야 될까요?
그게 이제 제일 고민되는 문제죠. 그렇죠?
그렇죠.
어느 정도는 부모님들이 그래도 학교를 가야 된다는 생각이 많잖아요. 그렇죠?
그렇죠. 그렇죠.
그리고 대학도 가야 되고.
그렇죠.
이제 학교를 안 가면 대학을 못 가니까. 근데
그렇죠.
그것도 조금 애매해요. 이거는
네.
커뮤니티 컬리지 같은 데가 있으니까.
네.
부모님들이 어떻게 해야 되는 거는 이게 학생들을 it's not about saving students. It's about equipping them. Right? Like the mentality shift it has to be very prevalent.
What do you mean prevalent? Prevalent. 그러니까,
already abundant.
Mhm.
음,
So
아하,
what I mean by that is,
음,
school fulfills a need,
음,
and that need is fulfilled or it's given by the school,
음,
right? And so parents have no choice.
The state.
Right. And it's not just public school. And I know I keep saying public school, but it's private schools too. It's
음,
homeschools as well. Right. And Miss Uriah is fully aware of this fact as well.
음,
Right. And so
음,
I think one of my tasks is to help students learn how to think so that they're able to dissect information correctly.
그렇지, 그렇지.
Right.
아, 그러니까 아까 얘기하신 거는 부모가 제일 해야 되는 것은 아이들을 준비를 시켜야 된다 이거죠.
그렇죠.
준비를 시켜야 되고,
그렇죠.
그리고 이제 미스터 데니얼이 이제 학생들에게 해주는 것은 아이들에게 생각하는 법을 가르쳐 주는 것이죠.
그렇죠.
So Mr. Daniel's Academy is such where the focus is a little bit different. It's even though academics is important, just as important as academics is actually mentorship. So the teachers are their mentors, and they work in partnership with the parents, so that we make sure that we're not working against or overriding parents' authority. That we still say, your parents have the final say
Mhm.
over the students.
Mhm.
Their children.
Mhm.
그렇죠. 그러니까 미스터 데니얼 이 지금 운영하시는 학원은 그러니까 academics, 그러니까 학업 성적만 중요한 게 아니라 멘토링이라는 것을 하고 있잖아요. 그러니까
그렇죠.
학생을 멘토링을 하고 또 그 과정에서 이제 부모님도 항상 관여를 할 수 있고 부모님도 항상 이제 결국에는 부모님이 결정하는 거고 부모님이 어떤 방향으로 가는 걸 결정하는 건가요?
그렇죠.
예.
이게 이제 지금까지
음,
세월을 조금 지나 보니까 선생 개념이랑
음,
스승 개념이랑 너무 달라요. 이게
음,
when you look at public schools, you don't get to choose the teacher. It's
음,
just given to you.
음, 음,
But with mentors and with
음,
people that invest, the parents are able to fully select this individual. So there's no surprises. Right? In order for a parent to come into a place like Ascent, they need to know who I am. They need to know my teachers. They need to know the team dichotomy. They need to know the philosophy. And if they don't like it, they leave. Right? But with teachers in public schools, if the teacher has some kind of flag up in the classroom, if they have some sort of like weird something going on, they have no choice. What are they going to do? Go to the school board? The school board's going to say, well, we have this clause and that clause, so we can't do anything about it.
그렇죠. 그러니까 공립학교에서는 그냥 선생님을 선택할 수가 없고, 그러니까
그렇죠.
선생님이 믿는 거를 우리가 믿지 않아도 그냥 어떻게 싸울 수 있는 방법이 없죠. 거의 이제 학교 선생님은 이제 그냥 거의 그냥 계시니까
그렇죠.
그냥 거의 학교 선생님은 유니언 때문에 그
네.
teachers 유니언 때문에 쉽게 이제 해고할 수도 없는 거고 문제가 있어요.
그렇죠.
그러니까 근데 이제 Ascent 같은 학원 같은 경우는 이제 그 선생님이 이제 하시는 게 다 이제 보여지고 어떤 분인지 다 알게 되고 그러니까 선택을 할 수 있는 거죠. 이제
그렇죠.
어떤 분인지 다 알고 선택하고 믿고 보낼 수 있는 학원인 거죠. 그죠?
그렇죠. 이제 그
그러면
제일 중요한 부분은
음,
부모님들이 마음에 안 들면은
음.
그러면 그냥 가시면 돼요. 근데 이게
네.
엄청 중요한 거를 많은 부모님들이 그냥 스쳐가요, 이거를. Right? Because parents have to understand that the primary educator of their kid is the parent. It's them. Right.
그러니까 결국에는 부모님이 제일 중요한 스승인데 그렇게 할 수 있나? 너무 바쁘셔갖고
그렇죠. 그것도
네, 네,
문제죠. 네.
네, 너무 바쁘셔서 이제 부모님은 아이들이 사실은 어쩔 때는 뭘 배우는지 잘 모르시는 경우가 많을 것 같아요.
그렇죠.
예,
그런 이유 때문에
음,
선생님이든지 스승을 부모님들 잘 고르시면은 이런 문제가 없죠. 그런
그쵸.
문제가. 네.
근데 공립학교에서는 초이스가 없는 거죠. 선택권이
없죠.
없는 거죠. 예,
없죠.
예. 그러니까 우리가 근데 부모님들이 critical race theory,
네.
비판적 이론, 인종 이론을 모르실 것 같아요.
네.
간단하게 설명해 주실 수 있어요?
그렇죠. 이제
Mr.
critical
You
race.
want to translate to English?
Oh, yes. So it's a perfect time to explain what critical race theory is because that is exactly what is being implemented in schools, and some school districts are rejecting it. But we want to know what that is. Mr. Daniel, please
Yeah.
explain for us.
So very, very simply, critical race theory is a theory
음,
that racism is baked into the system that
음,
which is America.
음.
That's baseline, fundamental definition.
그러니까 critical race theory, 비판적 인종 이론이라는 것은 항상 그 인종 차별이 미국 시스템에 박혀 있다.
그렇죠.
그렇게 가르치는 거죠.
네.
예. 이게 왜 문제가 되는지 설명을 해 주실 수 있나요?
그렇죠. So the
어.
reason why this first and foremost is a problem is that it's a theory.
음,
So it's not law.
그치. 이게 이론일 뿐이고 현실은 아닐 수가 있는 거죠.
Right. And so when you cross the line of theory, you have to go into what we call a sampling error, which means you have to select a pool of people within a community, and they represent that community.
그러니까 이론이 사실로 증명이 될 때까지는 약간 그 인구 조사를 해야 되는 거죠. 그죠?
그렇죠.
네,
Right.
그때
And
조사를 해야 되고
그렇죠.
연구를 해야 되는 거죠.
그렇죠.
네.
근데 그거를 so if we take like one instance and then we apply it, it continues to be a theory.
그치. 근데 딱 그러니까 뭐지? 한 가지 사건만 가지고 이
그렇죠.
사건을 모든 일에 다 적용을 하면은 그건 계속 이론일 뿐인 거죠.
Right.
사실이 아니라.
Right. And so the problem then is that in and of itself is racism. Because what you're saying is if you're African American or if you're Latino or if you're Asian, you need the extra help because you cannot succeed on your own.
그러니까 이 이론의 문제는 그 이론 자체가 인종차별이라는 거죠.
그렇죠.
그러니까 흑인이나 동양 사람이나 아니면은 다른 소수민족이면은 너는 스스로 성공할 수 없으니까 더 도움이 필요하다. 이런
Right.
이론이잖아요. 그죠?
그렇죠. And that's where affirmative action comes into play.
affirmative action을 한국말로 뭐라고 그러지?
I don't know.
affirmative action. 그러니까 affirmative action. 그러니까 affirmative action이라고 합시다.
그럼 부모님도 아실 거예요.
네.
예.
네, affirmative action.
Right.
네.
And
같은
so
경우가 그런 경우죠. 예.
right. And so this whole system is the way in which society or young people's community goes is based on a theory, based on maybe a very limited amount of data, and then you apply it to the masses.
그렇지. 충분한 자료가 없고 몇 가지 몇 가지 예를 그냥 예가 별로 이런 상황이 많지 않은데도 이 적은 케이스들을 모든 사람들한테 다 적용을 하는 거죠.
Right. And so then people may ask, well, what's the problem? Why can't we help the African American? Why can't we help the Latino? And that is what we like to call a fallacy, right? They're not understanding the argument.
그러니까 우리가 그러면 왜 그냥 흑인들 그냥 도와주면 왜 안 돼? 이렇게 얘기하면은 이거는 fallacy를 한국말로 뭐라 그러지? 이거는 fallacy. 그러니까 실수. 이거는
그렇죠.
실수죠.
logical 실수. It's a mistake.
이거는 실수가 될 수.
그렇죠. Because when we say things like, oh, why can't we just help the African American or the Latino? What we're saying is they don't need the help. They're fully able to do that themselves.
그치.
as much as I am, as much as a Caucasian down the street.
음,
But when you strip that away, what
음,
you have to do is now you have to rely on the system, right?
아,
So then what does that lead to? Well, it leads to a very communistic type of economy where you rely on the country that built the system to support you because you can't bust out of that system.
아.
That's why it's fundamentally wrong.
그러니까 오히려 소수민족에게 조금 더 대우를 해주고 소수민족에게 더 정부의 보조가 있는 그 시스템 자체가 그 소수민족을 그 시스템에 의지하게 해서 이게 더욱더 사회주의나 공산주의와 같은 시스템으로 가는 거라 이거지.
그렇죠. So it's like, how do you want to solve the problem,
그렇죠.
right? And so you can't solve the problem by looking at the collective. You have to solve the problem by looking at the individual and then giving them opportunities for higher education and such.
그러니까 문제를 모든 사람한테 다 적용하는 게 아니라 그 케이스 바이 케이스
Right. 한 사람 한 사람.
한 사람 한 사람을
그렇죠.
그 도와주는 걸로 문제를 해결해야 된다. 그렇죠?
그렇죠.
네.
Or just educating them.
음,
But even when you look at redlining,
음,
like the inner cities,
음.
if you live in the inner city, you cannot go to a different school.
아,
And those school districts are regulated and governed by, unfortunately, Democratic mayors and city officials. So they're unable to pull themselves out because the system itself is baked into it. And yet, unfortunately, the individuals who need to get out convince themselves that they don't need to and that the government will do stuff for them.
I see. 그러니까 그거를 빈민촌에 산다고 해야 되나? 빈민촌에 사는 사람은 계속 그런 공립학교에 가게 되고 민주당이 운영하는 그런 시스템에 있기 때문에 계속 거기서 나오지 못하고 그 공립학교에서 교육을 받고 그 다음에 또 이제 정부에서 주는 보조금으로 생활을 해야 된다.
그렇죠.
예.
And so then 이제 if we go back, 이제 한국 부모님들 좀 입장을 생각하면은 많은 부모님들이, well, what does it have to do with me, right? Like my kid is here in the OC. Why do I have to care? But
한국 부모님들은
네.
우리 애는 하랑 상관없는 얘기인데 우리 아이들은 오렌지 카운티에서 자라잖아. 이렇게 할 수도 있죠. 예.
그렇죠. But then the problem becomes what we hyper focus on the individual now. And that's a problem because when this individual grows up, they're going to be part of society. And they need individuals to push each other, to push innovation. But if they're unable to be in that facility because when they were younger, they were hyper focused on the individual, they're no longer able to have competition, and competition drives our capital. So it's very important.
그러니까 이제 말씀하시는 거는 그 한 사람만 잘한다고 되는 게 아니라 다른 사람도 다 잘해야지 서로 경쟁 사회가 이루어지는데 한 사람만 잘한다고 되는 것이 아니다.
그렇죠.
그죠?
그렇죠. 이제 그게 제 문제 같아요. 한국 부모님들은 그게 my kid is not affected. Unfortunately, they will be in the future.
그렇죠. 그렇죠.
지금 그 affirmative action도 제일 그 problem이 되는 그 ethnicity가 Asian이에요, 지금. 네.
왜 그렇죠?
그러니까 affirmative action, basically what it does is it gives opportunity, or rather unwarranted opportunity, to those that have not tried, but only based on their race. And because Asians typically score higher on tests and in school, these so-called Ivy League schools and such, what they'll do is, because of diversity, they'll neglect the Asian, and then they'll go and they'll admit the other races, which isn't a problem if the other races are able to do so. And so it's like we continue to focus on race when we're supposed to be focusing on the individual.
그러니까 affirmative action이 동양 사람한테 굉장히 불리하게 작용을 하는 거예요. 그죠?
그렇죠.
왜냐면은, 너무 이렇게 아주 점수를 많이 잘 받아도, 점수를 잘 못 받은 다른 소수민족한테 기회가 갈 수 있기 때문에. 그죠?
그렇죠. 그렇죠.
So it sounds like it's giving the government permission to place the value on the citizens.
Mm-hmm.
That sounds very dangerous.
Mm-hmm.
음, 음.
What do you
value
think that
based on
leads
race,
to?
right?
I'm sorry, one more time.
Oh, go
Oh,
ahead if you want to
you were
translate.
saying that value on the citizen, government is
The government is determining the value of its citizens, race by race.
맞아. 그러니까 정부가 그 시민들한테 그 인종에 따라서 마치 그 인종에 따라서 그 가치를 다르게 계산을 한다고 해야 되나요? 예,
그렇죠.
가치를
그렇죠.
다르게
예.
부과한다고 해야 되나?
그렇죠. 이게 right. The government in of itself should have no authority in valuing the person. Because the government's job fundamentally was to secure rights. It wasn't to secure punishments.
그렇죠. 그러니까
What will that lead to, Mr. Daniel? Potentially.
정부는 사실은 우리의 권리를 지켜줄 의무가 있지만 오히려 우리를 인종에 따라서 그 벌을 주거나 아니면은 상을 주거나 그러니까 약간의 보상을 해주거나 하는 역할을 하게 됐어요. 그죠?
그렇죠. Right. So, and what that leads to when you have a government that places value on individuals not based on merit, but based on something that they cannot control, you take another metric out of the actual equation. So then what happens is the government is now able to say, because someone who looked like you did this previously, you now have to take accountability for that person. Now, I mean, obviously we can see what the danger is, right?
그러니까 정부가 그러니까 너같이 생긴 사람이 이렇게 했기 때문에 그러면은 너도 이렇게 살아야 된다. 그러니까
그렇죠.
너도
벌을 받아야 된다. 아니면 그렇죠.
아니면은 약간의 보상을 받아야 된다.
그렇죠. Reparations, right? Right.
Okay.
And so, you know, because the government is fundamentally designed to secure rights, if we change that to that of securing consequences, then those who want to propel society forward will choose not to. Right? Because if they do too much, then what they have will get stripped away and then given to someone who needs it, because based on accountability, on identity politics. Well, that kind of sounds a lot like communism, doesn't it? So right.
그러니까 많이 노력을 뭐랄까, 만약에 많이 노력을 하는 그런 의미가 없겠네요.
그렇죠.
노력을 하는 의미가 없고, 왜냐면 어차피, 그러니까 노력을 하면은 자기가 받는 보상이 오히려 없어진다.
그렇죠.
그런가요? 네.
최대한 제가 노력을 이제 100% 해도 이게 나한테 와서 그 밑에 있는 사람들한테 이렇게 퍼져주는 게 아니라, and it's also my will or my doing, right? If I have a business, it's my will to go and pay my employees, or it's my will to do this and do that. But if the government comes in and tells me that I have to do it, and that this person who isn't working because for some reason, their, great grandfather was this and that, so therefore they don't deserve it, but this person does, and therefore they're going to strip my capital and my effort away and give it to them. Why would I do anything at all? I'll just be in their position, and I'll just work under someone else and get paid for doing nothing too. So that's the economic system of communism, right? It's to quote unquote exploit the bourgeoisie, right? The top of the line, and then filter it down.
그러니까 남의 밑에서 열심히 일하기보다는 그냥 정부에서 주는 돈을
그렇죠.
이런 얘기인가요?
그런 것도 이제
간단하게
있죠.
얘기해줘.
그렇죠.
Okay.
Yeah. So I mean, going back to Korean parents, like why?
Yeah, Korean parents.
It's like why? So then what? As long as my son owns business, right? Or as long as it's like, or my daughter can work at a great company. It's like, well, if we're not careful, even if your son or daughter owns that company, they won't have any talent that will propel their business forward.
그러니까 한국 사람들은 또 이렇게 생각할 수 있는 거죠. 뭐 우리 딸 아들은 자기 사업을 할 수도 있고 성공할 수도 있다.
그렇죠.
하지만은 그 사업에서 일할 사람이 없게 되는 상황이 있는 거죠.
그렇죠. 아니면 이제 누구든지 한국 그 학생들이 다른 사람 밑에서 일할 수도 있는데, right? They'll always have the ability to work under someone, no matter the race. But then that becomes, we don't know the qualifications of this person, or they don't know the qualifications of the person. And then, or it's like there's no even distribution of knowledge going back and forth.
그러니까 또 지식이 매칭이 안 될 수가 있는 거죠. 그죠?
그렇죠. 그렇죠. 그러니까 again, when we strip everything away and we just look at the race, well, we're not the the conservatives or the traditionalists. They're not the ones doing that. It's the other side. It's the leftists who are going and right and actually implementing these kinds of systems. But for some odd, I mean, I know the reason, but we're seen as the bad guys. So those on the conservative side are seen as the bad guys. It just so right. It just so happens that Korean parents, unfortunately, they don't know which side they're on.
그러니까 이제 지금 얘기하시는 거는 좌파들이 이런 시스템을 만들어 놨지만 오히려 보수파들이 나쁜 사람으로 보인다 이거예요.
그렇죠. 이거는 이게 그 결과를 보는 사람이 in society 나쁜 사람을 보이잖아요, 그렇죠? Usually.
네.
이제 but when we look at results, that person is seen as the bad person. Why can't you just accept me for who I am? Why do you have to look at what I do? But that's the right thing to do. And not judging based on your skin color or whatever kind of ethnicity.
그러니까 우리가 나쁜 사람이 되는 거는 우리가 사람을 능력으로 판단하는데 그러면은 또 이제 왜 능력으로 판단하냐? 나를
그렇죠.
그대로 받아주면 안 되냐?
그렇죠.
그러니까 그거를 그렇게 지금 교육을 제대로 못 받고 능력이 없는 사람을 받아들일 수 없는 그런 보수적인 사람이 나쁜 사람이 된다 이거예요.
그렇죠. 근데 그 솔루션이 엄청 쉬워요.
오케이.
We just up the education system in the inner cities. It's so easy. You put qualified teachers in there, right? Who aren't going to teach critical race theory, who's not going to say, hey, because you're black, you need my help. Like, how racist is that? Like.
Yeah. 그러니까 이제는 지금 이렇게 이거를 해결하는 해결책은 굉장히 간단하다 이거죠.
그렇죠. 엄청 간단해요.
해결책은 그냥 그 빈민촌에 좋은 선생님이 일하게 하는 거, 좋은 선생님을
or just the education, 교육 레벨을 그냥 올리는 거예요. I mean, there's many different ways.
교육을 더 향상시켜서
그렇죠.
아이들을 거기 빈민촌에 사는 아이들을 잘 교육받게 하는 것이 해결책이라.
그렇죠.
네.
아니면 그런 학생들을 다른 학교에다가 집어넣는 거죠.
그렇죠. 다른 학교에 갈 수 있도록 좋은 학교에.
Right. Now, obviously, when we go too far to that side, we're going to be dealing with race. Right. So there has to be a level of input that a student does. For instance, keeping some level of GPA, some level of community service, some level of character, and then they'll apply and then go to a school like Kennedy or go to a school like Whitney. But I went to school in Los Angeles. I went to Fairfax High School.
아,
And Fairfax High School was known to filter LA high school students in. And those who succeeded, fine, they succeeded. But those who didn't, they went back into their inner city, homes. They went back to Watts, South Central, and nothing really changed. Why send them to Fairfax? Send them somewhere else. But unfortunately, because of the redlining district, they were unable to go. But then those who succeeded, they succeeded, no matter the color. Right? Yeah.
아, 그러니까 선생님은 또 그 백그라운드가 그러니까 어렸을 때 페어팩스
네.
하이스쿨에 나오셨고
예.
LA에서 학교를
그렇죠.
다니셨기 때문에 더 잘하시는 거예요. 이런 상황.
그렇죠. Right. So I went there all 4 years.
아, 그러니까 그래서 LA에서 학교에서도 더 좋은 페어팩스 하이스쿨에 가실 수 있었던 거죠.
One more time. Sorry.
Fairfax High School was a
네.
better school than the other average.
Well, I mean, it was okay. It wasn't better. It was just in the neighborhood. It was one of the better ones. But what I'm saying is we had very gifted students coming from Compton Centennial and LA High. And they should have gone to schools like Brentwood. They should have gone to schools like Laces. They should have gone to schools like Beverly, but they didn't. Because their district redlined them, they had to come to Fairfax.
아, 그러니까 오히려 페어팩스보다 더 좋은 학교를 갈 수 있었는데 그 지역 구역 그러지 교육구가 나눠져 있기 때문에 갈 수 없었다 이거예요.
그렇죠.
아,
근데 이제 또 그런 학생들은 성공하고 싶으니까 성공한 거죠. Like they succeeded, right?
아, 그래도 성공할 아이들은
Right.
페어팩스에 가도 성공할 수 있었다.
Right.
그렇죠.
Yeah.
맞아요. 아무튼 그래서 선생님은 더 잘 아시는군요. 근데 아무튼 이게 참 우리가 우리 아이들만 잘 키운다고 되는 게 아니네요. 그죠?
아니죠.
네.
우리 혼자 산다고
어.
우리가 just because we want to live well.
Yeah.
It doesn't solve anything.
맞아요.
And I think that was one of the things that the opposition, the left, not the liberal, but the left, right? They exposed the conservatives very well in that we don't know how to band together. Conservatives, because we're fundamentally individualists. We don't know how to come together and to build something. But the left, they know how to do that. Because they don't look at the individual, they look at the collective and totality. Now that's their downfall. But that's the reason why they were able to again redefine words like education, like progression, like progressiveness, because they were able to band together. And with Korean parents, one problem that I see is they're too narrow as far as like their influence, right? So they're too individualistic. They need to get out there and they need to go to these school board meetings. They need to go out there and talk to individuals. They need to be out there and talking to churches. And I mean, my critique of churches is a dime a dozen. There's so many things that the church should have done that they didn't do, particularly Korean churches. And yet, so like what you did, Miss Ann, when you went to the school board meetings, right? When you like that is honorable. That you need to do that. Miss Uriah and Miss Ann creating this podcast, that's extremely important. Unfortunately for Koreans and for Korean adults, that is it's a far cry.
이게 조금 듣기 힘드실 수 있는 약간 지적인데요.
그렇죠.
이게 그러니까 우리가 너무 우리 아이만 잘 키우면 돼. 그러니까 이게 굉장히 위험한 생각이에요. 그래서 지금 말씀하신 게 우리가 보수파들이 제일 그 약점이 뭐냐면은 너무 우리만 잘하면 돼 하기 때문에 우리가 서로 협력해서 뭘 하는 것에 익숙하지 않고
그렇죠.
오히려 좌파들은 같이 이렇게 뭔가 전체를 보기 때문에 잘 뭉쳐가지고 뭔가를 잘 한단 말이에요. 그죠? 뭔가를
그렇죠.
잘 조직을 만드는데 이제 한인 부모들도 잠깐 스쿨 보드 미팅도 참여하시고 커뮤니티에 참여를 해야 되고 또 특히 교회도 약간의 그 커뮤니티에 무슨 일이 있는지 관심을 가져야 되는 때가 왔지 않을까요?
Right, like the community, not politics. Very
예, 예,
different
맞아요.
churches.
네, 커뮤니티.
And then another thing is,
음.
I don't think Korean parents really teach morals.
아,
I think they need to teach morals.
음,
Because when we say things like,
음,
uh, only my kid has to do well,
음,
they can reinterpret that and say, well, what does that mean? Does that mean that I have to go to South Central and volunteer there? It's like, no, it means to teach your kid how to be a good person. And unfortunately, not you two, because I think you two are doing a great job, but a lot of the Korean parents aren't doing that because they're afraid of stepping on toes. They think that the time will come to teach my kid how to be a good person in the future. But right now, what's really important is that they get the A. That's really important. But later is when I'll teach them how to be a good person. It's like, flip it.
그러니까 이제 담임 부모들이 또 이제 약점이 지금 빨리 이제 좋은 성적을 받아야 되니까 그게 우선 급하고 아이들의 인성을 약간 중요시하지 않는 그런 실수를 하실 수 있다는 거죠.
그렇죠.
아이들의 인성을 벌써 인성에 관심을 가지셔야 되는데 우선 성적이 우선이라는 거죠. 그렇죠?
그렇죠. 근데 이제 나중에 보면은
음,
사람들한테 모이는 그런 그 성격이 성적 잘 받은다고 모이는 게 아니잖아요.
그렇죠, 그렇죠,
그렇죠?
그렇죠.
If I'm morally upright, people will come to me
그렇죠,
for aid or for me to give them aid.
그렇죠. 예, 예.
근데 이게 없으면 그럼 그냥 외롭게 그냥 혼자 살아요.
그렇죠.
Right, like from childhood to adolescence to adulthood.
그렇죠, 그렇죠. 맞아요.
네.
와, 정말, Miss Uriah?
I think it's very indicative in just that incident that happened in Korea recently on Halloween, where I mean that's unimaginable and it's horrific, and I can't imagine what the parents are dealing with, and having so many young people go to one event and it's like they don't care or they're unaware that there are people that are dying underneath them.
Yeah. What is Miss Ann, if I may ask, and I'll ask. I mean, I'm not supposed to be the one asking questions, but I feel like I'm the only one
Oh, it's
talking.
okay. You
So,
can ask
Okay.
questions.
like,
Yes.
when you what were you always this involved in school politics or school board, and if not, like what caused you to go and be a voice?
Oh, for me, I was so busy with everything else that was going on in my life. I was not really interested. I really didn't go to I don't belong to PTA.
Yeah.
I don't like when I don't belong to any organization involving school. However, during the pandemic, I was able to overhear everything on my daughter was learning. 그러니까 이제 우리 딸이 팬데믹 중에는 온라인 수업을 하잖아요. 근데 이거를 꼭 들어야 되는 클래스라고 하는 거예요. 그래서 막 정말 급한데도 막 어디 막 가야 되는데도 막 그거 온라인 클래스를 해야 된다고 해서 꼭 듣고 그러고 있는데 제가 다 엿들을 수 있는 거예요. 무슨 내용을 하는지. 근데 그중에서 제일 충격적인 내용이 뭐였냐면은 외모가 여자든 남자든 그게 그 사람이 그러니까 외모가 여자라고 생각하면 안 되고 외모가 남자라고 해도 남자라고 생각하면 안 된다. 그 사람이 속에 어떻게 느끼고 있는지가 더 중요하다. 이런 걸 가르치는 거예요. 이게 너무너무 위험한 생각인 거예요. 그래서 그러면은 뭐 남자 같은 생각이 여자 화장실에 들어갈 수도 있고 남자 같은 생긴 사람이 여자 그 락커룸에 들어가도 괜찮다 이거 아니에요. 속에 여자라고 느끼고 있으면 이게 너무 위험한 생각이고 네가 속으로 느끼는 것이 너의 진짜 모습이다. 그것도 너무 위험한 생각이에요. 그것뿐만이 아니라 이제 systemic racism, 그러니까 우리 모든 시스템은 이제 인종의 바탕이 돼 있다. 그러니까 이런 사상도 나는 깜짝 놀랐어요. 이런 거를 가르치다니. 그래서 제가 알아봤죠. 이게 어떻게 들어온 건가? 어떻게 들어온 프로그램인가? 그렇게 알아보는 과정에 제가 이제 스쿨보드에 가서 이제 말을 하게 됐죠. 예, 저는 근데 요새 뭐 이렇게 젠더가 많이 있고 프로나운이 많이 있는지 모르다가 이제 깜짝 놀라서 갔는데 다른 분들은 벌써 여기에 많이 익숙해져 있더라고요. 뭐 이렇게 된 지 오래됐는데 이렇게 뭐 그렇게 됐어요. 예, 그렇게 해서 더 이제 지금 더 알아보고 있는 거예요. 계속 공부를 계속 하고 있어요. 지금 사회가 많이 변했더라고요. 아이들도 많이 변했고. 예.
매일 변해요.
네.
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 It's crazy. Yeah. Monsieur, you recently sent Nathan, right, or your son. Let me rephrase that so you don't have the name. So, Mr. Rai, you recently sent one of your children over to a public school, right, in like the North OC area, from homeschool. Like, can you tell us, or can you at least tell me, like, what's going on, that switch between someone who had, the final say in your son's education to now being someone on the receiving end?
Yeah, so I was like Anne at first too, where I was too busy, and I let the schools teach my kids. And I didn't pay any attention to that until I really felt like I needed to take them out. I already saw the communist influence. So my son was in homeschool. Actually, Mr. Daniel was his mentor up until from first grade to sixth grade. And it was a very difficult decision, and it was very, very hard. We had no reason why we wanted to move out to a public school, except we were moving location, and it was something that it took a lot of decision making, but we kind of felt like he was ready to experience what it is in the real world type of setting. But to be honest, it was very extremely disappointing, because just like Anne was sharing, the sexual education that they are implementing, that was the first question that he was asked, was, what pronoun do you want to be referred to? And my son is like, what does that even mean? He doesn't understand. And I'm perfectly fine with him not understanding. Those are not things that he needs to learn at school. He needs to learn his studies. He needs to learn his math, his English, writing skills. Why does he need to learn about sexual things and identities? And so for us, we just felt like it was the right time. And he had a lot of mentorship and training, and he kind of needed to be challenged. And so this was definitely a challenging situation where he had to experience what is going on in the world. And one thing that I do like about it is that I'm more aware, because it's easy for me to be in my own comfortable bubble, and I'm just going to step away. I don't want to be involved. They can do what they want, and I'm just going to do what I want. But now I see, because I have been outside of it, I've been so narrow-minded. I don't know what's going on. But now that he's in there, I can be aware. And I know it's not just my son, because my son is growing up in a community, and he has to make friends. Who are his friends if I don't care about his fellow students? So that school is my concern. And I pray for the school. I pray for the teachers. And if we don't pray for them, who else is going to be leading? And so that, for me, I know that we are an influence. Just because my son is there, he's an influence, and it's a battleground. And he doesn't have that many friends, because they don't have the same values at all. But just having that one or two value, and that's scary too, I feel like. And so that's a long answer.
이걸 translate 할까요? Should I translate?
If you think it's
간단하게.
relevant, you could summarize it. Yeah.
그러니까 미스 유라야도 1학년부터 6학년까지는 데니얼 선생님한테 홈스쿨링 하다가 최근에 이제 이사를 하시면서 그래, 퍼블릭스쿨에 한번 보내보자. 그리고 거기서 세상이 또 어떤지 좀 배워보자 해서 보냈지만 약간 좀 실망스러운 부분도 많았죠. 근데 벌써 이제 퍼블릭스쿨에 가니까 네 프로나운이 무엇이냐 하고 물어봤죠. 그러니까 프로나운이라는 거는 he, she, 그녀, 뭐, 뭐 이렇게
Yeah, that-
영어로 이제 he, she, they, them, a, 그냥 많아요. 프로나운이.
그렇죠.
아무튼 그걸 고르라고 그러고 이제 성교육도 좀 너무 파격적이고, 그래서 또 친구가 많지는 않은 게, 좀 생각하는 게 많이 다르기 때문에, 어, 금방 이렇게 아이들하고 잘 어울리지는 못하는 그런 문제가 있었죠. 그죠? 근데 그래서 더욱더 기도하게 되고, 더욱더 이제 학교에 이제 관심을 가져야 되겠다. 이제는 우리 아이가 같이 이제 사회에서 같이 어울려서 살아야 될 사람들이 이런 사람들이니까 많이 기도를 하셔야 되고, 전쟁터, 영적 전쟁터다. 이렇게 말씀하신 거죠. 그죠? 예.
Mr. Daniel, because you've had a lot of experience working with the youth, and you're not their parent, and you're their teacher, their mentor. So what kind of advice can you give to, like, a final nugget of advice to wrap up, to Korean parents? What are some possible blind spots? What are some things that they can do to navigate and help their children? What should they focus on, or whatever it is you want to end with for us?
Um, I think it's really important that parents talk to each other, not just, hey, how's your day going? And I mean, obviously, right, it's anecdotal, but more in lines with, have you heard, right? Or what do you think? I think many Korean parents, because this is a voice for Korean parents, right? And maybe even parents in total, they don't talk to each other outside of the walls of the school because they don't want to cause some sort of shift or sifting. And I think it's a dangerous thing when parents take a back seat to their kids, not education, but their development. And so anytime there's some sort of illogical decision and you don't want to go to the school board, talk to someone that has some level of knowledge. It may not be me. I mean, I'm saying talk to each other, like parents, like band together, right? Because as much as I want to do my job and my staff wants to do our job, at the end of the day, if we take over the parents' authority, that's not a good thing either. And so my final piece of nugget of advice is parents talk to each other and have a civil discourse about what's going on in your schools, what's going on in your child's education. And if you don't like it, have the guts and the unction to pull them out. Because at the end of the day, they can learn math at 30. They can learn math at 32. They can learn math whenever they want. The last thing you want to do is have them have a shaken, unstable moral system that is based on a theory. You can't fix that.
그쵸.
And then later on, people like me will come around and will completely shatter their worldview. Like I have discussions with 35, 40-year-olds, and I completely shatter it. And they're broken because their parents didn't band together. So what you're doing, you two do exactly that. And if you can get as many parents on board as possible, the better. It makes our job a lot easier.
그러니까 미스터 제니얼이 말하시는 거는 지금 부모들이 서로 대화를 해야 되고 서로 이제 힘을 모아서 학교에 문제가 있으면 그거에 대해서 지금 행동을 취해야 될 때가 왔다. 그래서
그렇죠.
만약에 학교가 변하지 않는다면 정말 아이들을 학교에서 빼내는 일이 있더라도 뭔가를 행동을 취해야 되고 아이가 32 돼서 공부는 할 수 있어요. 그죠? 수학도
그렇죠.
배울 수 있고 뭐 문학도 배울 수 있어. 하지만 어렸을 때 만약에 세뇌가 된다면 옳지 않은 이론에 세뇌가 된다면 그것은 정말 평생 고생해야 되는 일인 거죠. 그죠?
그렇죠.
네.
우리는 내가 믿는 거를 so I have to meet people that think and believe like I do. But if everyone's truth and everyone's fact and opinions are different, I'm not going to meet anybody. And so I'm just going to live lonely, and I'm just going to believe weird things, and then that's it. Hey, but at least I have a degree, right? It's like, no, wrong. Right. So band together.
네. 알겠습니다.
Thank you
감사합니다.
so much. Is there anything else you wanted to say, Anne?
뭐, I think 그냥 오늘 미술 데니얼 와주셔서 너무 감사하고,
Yeah.
또 이렇게 또 중요한, 아무튼 조언을 해주셨는데, 부모님들이 잘 생각하고 기도하면서 아이들 잘 키울 수 있도록, 예, 바라는 바입니다. Israel, thank you.
Thank you so much. Parents want to reach out to you. Is that something you would be
Of course,
open
absolutely.
to?
I'd love to be a resource, either me or my team, or they can ask a student. My students know a lot about a lot. So, but yeah, if they have any questions and I can be a resource, absolutely.
Okay, great. Thank you so much.
Thank you.